As the evening sun cast a golden hue over the tranquil hills of Galilee, Jesus gathered his disciples by the lakeside. The day had been long, filled with teaching, healing, and ministering to the crowds. The disciples, though weary, sensed that their master had something important to share. They settled around him, eager to listen. Jesus, with a calm yet profound presence, began to speak. "My beloved friends, there is a matter that each of you will face in your journey of faith, a matter that weighs heavily on the hearts and minds of all who seek to live righteously. It is the balance between the heart and the mind, and the ultimate choice you must make in life." He paused, allowing his words to settle in the minds of his listeners. "I will tell you a story, a parable about two brothers. Though they were bound by blood and shared the same upbringing, they walked very different paths in life. Their journey will reveal the truth about the heart, the mind, and the choices that shape our destinies." The disciples leaned in, captivated by the anticipation of the story. Jesus continued, his voice filled with wisdom and compassion. "Let's start the story. In a village nestled between rolling hills and fertile plains, there lived two brothers, Aaron and Eli. Their father, a man of great wisdom and wealth, had raised them with love and guidance. He taught them the value of both heart and mind, hoping that they would grow to be men of integrity, capable of navigating the complexities of life with both compassion and wisdom. As the brothers grew older, they began to embody different aspects of their father's teachings. Aaron, the elder brother, was a man of deep emotion. His heart led him in all things. He was quick to love and quick to anger, generous to a fault and compassionate beyond measure. Aaron was known throughout the village for his kindness, always willing to lend a hand or offer a comforting word. His heart, while pure and kind, often led him into situations where his emotions overpowered his reason. Eli, the younger brother, was different. He was a man of intellect and reason. Every decision he made was calculated, every action measured. He was prudent with his wealth, careful with his words, and always considered the possible outcomes before acting. His mind was sharp, and he was respected for his wisdom, yet his heart was often guarded, his emotions held at bay. Eli believed that emotions were a distraction, something that clouded judgment and led to poor decisions. Their father, seeing the differences in his sons, grew concerned as his health began to fail. He knew that his time on earth was drawing to a close, and he worried about how his sons would fare without his guidance. So, he called them to his bedside one evening, and with a frail but steady voice, he spoke his final words of wisdom. "My sons," he began, his eyes filled with love, "the time has come for me to leave this world. I have taught you all that I can, but there is one final lesson you must learn on your own. The heart and the mind are both gifts from God, meant to work together in harmony. One without the other can lead to ruin." Aaron and Eli listened intently, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that these were their father's last words. He continued, "Aaron, my son, your heart is pure and full of love, but do not let it lead you astray. Let your mind guide you in making wise decisions. And Eli, my son, your mind is sharp and discerning, but do not let it harden your heart. Let your emotions guide you in showing compassion and kindness. Remember, my sons, the heart and the mind must work together, for only then will you find true wisdom and fulfillment." With these words, their father passed away, leaving the brothers to ponder his final lesson. The village mourned the loss of a great man, and the brothers were left to inherit not only his wealth but also his responsibilities. In the days following their father's death, the brothers began to walk the paths they had chosen. Aaron, guided by his heart, used his inheritance to help the poor, support the sick, and comfort the grieving. He gave freely without much thought to the future. His heart was full of compassion, and he found great joy in helping others. The villagers loved Aaron for his generosity and kindness, but they also began to notice that his resources were quickly dwindling. Eli, on the other hand, approached his inheritance with caution and foresight. He invested wisely, ensuring that the estate would grow and provide for future generations. He managed the family's wealth with precision, calculating every expense and weighing every decision. Eli's prudence earned him respect, but it also created a distance between him and the villagers. He was seen as cold and detached, more interested in preserving his wealth than in helping those in need. As the years passed, the differences between the brothers became more pronounced. Aaron, though beloved by the villagers, began to struggle. His wealth was nearly gone, and he found himself unable to help as many people as he once did. The weight of his unfulfilled desires and the needs he could no longer meet began to burden his spirit. He often wondered if he had made the right choices, if perhaps he had been too generous, too guided by his heart. Eli, on the other hand, saw his wealth grow, but so did the walls around his heart. He had everything he needed materially, but he felt increasingly isolated. The villagers, though respectful, kept their distance, sensing that Eli valued his wealth more than their well-being. He often found himself alone, wondering if his focus on logic and reason had led him to a place of loneliness and emptiness. One fateful year, the village faced a great crisis. A severe drought gripped the land, causing crops to wither and livestock to perish. The rivers ran dry and the once fertile fields turned to dust. The villagers, their livelihoods in peril, turned to the brothers for help. Aaron, though his resources were nearly exhausted, opened his home to the villagers. He shared what little he had left, giving them food and water, even as his own stores dwindled. But as the days passed, it became clear that his generosity, without the means to sustain it, could not last. The villagers grew anxious, seeing that Aaron's heart, though full of love, could not provide for them in the long term. Eli, safe within the walls of his well-fortified estate, watched the crisis unfold from a distance. He had the means to help, his storerooms filled with provisions, but he hesitated. His mind calculated the risks. If he opened his doors and shared his wealth, his carefully managed resources could be depleted. What would happen if the drought persisted? What if his wealth ran out? Torn between his reason and a deep, buried sense of duty, Eli struggled with what to do. The villagers, desperate and afraid, came to Eli, pleading for his help. "Eli," they said, "you have the means to save us. Please share your wealth with us, for we have nowhere else to turn." Eli's mind raced. He knew that helping the villagers would come at a cost, but as he looked into their eyes, he felt something stir within him, a faint whisper of the compassion he had long suppressed. His father's words echoed in his mind. The heart and the mind must work together, for one without the other can lead to ruin. As the drought continued to devastate the village, the brothers found themselves at a crossroads. Aaron, exhausted and overwhelmed, realized that his heart alone could not sustain him or those he sought to help. He had given everything he had, but it was not enough. In his sorrow, he began to question the wisdom of his choices. Had he been too driven by emotion? Had he neglected the importance of planning and foresight? Eli, isolated and conflicted, stood before the gates of his estate, watching the villagers struggle. He knew he had the power to help them, but fear and doubt gnawed at his mind. What if he lost everything? What if he was left with nothing? Yet, in that moment, as he saw the desperation in their eyes, he felt a profound shift within him. His father's words became clear: the heart and the mind must work together. It was in this moment of clarity that Eli made his decision. He opened the gates of his estate and invited the villagers inside. He shared his wealth with them, providing food, water, and shelter. But he did not stop there. Eli, using his sharp mind, organized the villagers into groups, assigning tasks and responsibilities to ensure that the resources were used efficiently and sustainably. He taught them how to ration their supplies, how to dig wells for water, and how to make the most of what they had. Aaron, seeing his brother's actions, felt a renewed sense of hope. He realized that he did not have to bear the burden alone. Together, the brothers worked to save the village. Aaron's heart guided Eli's mind, and Eli's mind tempered Aaron's heart. They had found the balance that their father had spoken of, the harmony between heart and mind. As the weeks passed, the village began to recover. The wells that Eli had helped dig began to yield water, and the villagers, under his guidance, learned to manage their resources wisely. Aaron, with his compassionate heart, continued to care for the villagers, offering them comfort and encouragement. The brothers, once divided by their differences, had become a powerful team, their combined efforts bringing the village back from the brink of disaster. The villagers, grateful for the brothers' help, began to see them in a new light. Aaron, once known for his boundless compassion, was now respected for his wisdom in partnering with his brother. Eli, once seen as cold and distant, was now admired for his generosity and the way he had opened his heart to those in need. Together, they had shown the village that true strength comes from the unity of heart and mind. As the drought finally ended and the rains returned, the village flourished once more. The fields, once dry and barren, turned green with new life. The rivers, once dry, flowed freely again. The villagers, having survived the crisis, emerged stronger and more united than ever before. Years passed, and the brothers continued to lead the village, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They had learned to value each other's strengths, to listen to each other's counsel, and to work together for the greater good. Aaron, guided by his heart, brought warmth and compassion to their leadership, while Eli, guided by his mind, provided wisdom and stability. Their father's final lesson had taken root in their hearts, and they had come to understand the profound truth of his words. The heart and the mind, when working together in harmony, could overcome any challenge no matter how great. The village thrived under their leadership, becoming a place of prosperity and peace. The villagers, inspired by the brothers' example, began to practice the same balance in their own lives, valuing both compassion and wisdom in their decisions. As the brothers grew older, they often reflected on the journey they had taken together. They remembered the struggles and the lessons they had learned, and they gave thanks for the wisdom of their father, who had guided them even from beyond the grave. One day, as they sat together on a hill overlooking the village, Aaron turned to Eli and said, "Brother, I am grateful for the path we have walked together. There were times when I thought I could not go on, but you were there to guide me, to help me see the way forward." Eli smiled, a warmth in his eyes that had grown over the years. "And I am grateful for you, Aaron. You taught me that life is more than just reason and logic. You showed me the power of love and compassion, and for that I am forever thankful." The brothers sat in silence for a moment, watching the sun set over the village they had saved. The sky was painted in hues of orange and gold, a reflection of the harmony they had found in their lives. As Jesus finished the parable, he looked at his disciples with a knowing gaze. "My beloved friends, the heart and the mind are both gifts from God. They are meant to work together, not in opposition. The heart without the mind can lead to reckless abandon, while the mind without the heart can lead to cold indifference. The ultimate choice is not between the heart and the mind, but in how you bring them into balance." He paused, allowing his words to resonate with his listeners. When you face decisions in your life, remember the two brothers. Let your heart guide you in love and compassion, but let your mind lead you in wisdom and understanding. In this way, you will walk the path of righteousness, not swayed by the storms of emotion nor trapped in the fortress of reason. The disciples, deeply moved by the story, nodded in understanding. They had learned a profound lesson, one that would guide them in their journey as followers of Christ. Jesus continued, "There will be times in your life when your heart will pull you in one direction and your mind in another. In those moments, seek the wisdom that comes from balance. Do not ignore the cries of your heart, for they are the voice of compassion and love. But also, do not disregard the counsel of your mind, for it is the voice of reason and discernment. When you bring these two together, you will find the path that leads to true peace and fulfillment." The disciples sat in thoughtful silence, reflecting on the parable and the wisdom it contained. They realized that the story of the two brothers was not just about the choices they made, but about the choices they, as disciples, would have to make in their own lives. Peter, always quick to speak, broke the silence. "Lord, how do we know when our hearts and minds are in balance? How can we be sure that we are making the right choice?" Jesus smiled, his eyes full of understanding. "Peter, the balance between heart and mind is not something that can be measured by human standards. It is something that must be discerned through prayer, reflection, and the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Seek God in all that you do, and He will lead you in the way of righteousness. Trust in His wisdom, and He will help you find the balance you seek." The disciples nodded, taking in the depth of Jesus' words. They knew that this lesson would be one of the most important in their journey of faith. As the evening deepened, the disciples remained by the lakeside, discussing the parable and its implications. They shared their thoughts and insights, each one adding to the collective understanding of the lesson. James, the son of Zebedee, spoke up. "I see now that the heart and mind are like two wings of a bird. If one wing is stronger than the other, the bird cannot fly straight. It will veer off course and may even fall. But if both wings are strong and in harmony, the bird can soar to great heights." The others nodded in agreement, appreciating the analogy. John, James's brother, added, "And just as the wings of a bird must be used together, so must we use our hearts and minds together in our walk with God. One without the other will not bring us to where we need to be." Jesus listened to their discussion, pleased with how they were processing the lesson. He knew that each of them would face challenges in the future that would test their ability to balance heart and mind, but he also knew that they were growing in wisdom and understanding. As the night grew darker, Jesus rose and beckoned his disciples to follow him. "Come," he said, "let us go to the other side of the lake. There are more lessons to be learned, and more souls to be touched by the love of God." The disciples, filled with a renewed sense of purpose, followed their master into the night. The story of the two brothers remained in their hearts, a guiding light in the journey ahead. This is end of the story. Please like this video and subscribe my channel for more Jesus story like this. May the God watch over you.